Lakeside Dental Clinic, Go Island, is brought to you by Lakeside Dental Clinic.
Today's location is so cool that it's actually hot. We're at Red Cod Forge in Nanoose. Construction at Neck Point Park. Big Summer visits Alberta's first volunteer wildlife rescue facility and a new risk in low-income countries. You are watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We are here at Red Cod Forge in Nanoose Bay. There's a big show coming up at the old schoolhouse in Qualicum Beach. It's called Old Growth. We're going to look into the art of forging and give you some details on the show coming up. That's later on this edition of Go Island. This place is just so cool. We're glad to be here today. Neck Point Park off Hammond Bay Road is a destination waterfront park for lots of people living in Nanaimo, but come August there is some construction in the area which is going to change how you access that park. Annette Lucas has more. Annette says that the best thing might be to avoid Neck Point Park during the month of August and just check out the more than 300 other parks that Nanaimo has to offer. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. This is David Kasperek, and he is Red Cod Forge. That's safe to say.
Safe to say,
Safe to say. Now, we were discussing what we should talk about first, and we're going to start with the basics, which is, what is forging?
Well, forging to me is just taking a raw piece of metal and turning it into something unique and different.
I was struck by the contrast of working with the heat and ending up with something that is quite cold in material, but not in energy, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we have to get it really hot. We have to get it really hot so it's like plasticine. And then once it's hot, we can start manipulating it to any form we want, just like when you're a kid.
And what are the different ways to manipulate it?
We hammer it by hand. We put it in these different swage tools. It's like a bottom tool and top tool, which are both two different shapes. Of course, we work with big steel, so we have big equipment that does the hammering for us.
And it's really loud.
It's really loud, but it does the job, and we can move the metal really quickly to the state that we want it at. And then we take it to the anvil. And then from the anvil, we start shaping it and getting the form we want. And mostly it's all about form at my shop, primarily.
As opposed to being about precise detail?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not the Robert Bateman of blacksmithing, by no means. I'm more about shape and form and movement.
Now, I asked you why. You've been doing this you've had Red Cod Forge for about 6 years. You've been forging for about 8. I said, why did you do it? You just woke up one day and said, I'm going to start forging metal today. And you kind of laughed at me and said that it's primal, it's instinctual to you.
Totally, it's primal. We all want to do it. Everybody wants to come and do it and visit me.
And it's pretty cool here.
You know, like it's earthy. It comes from the earth. Iron's in the earth. It's in our blood. You know,
it's a bit of a step back in time in there.
It is, but it's stepping back in time's really great. Yeah. You know, considering everything that's going on. Yeah. I have some modern tools in there, but not many. And it's hard to explain. Once you start moving metal that way, it's like an addiction. It's you just want to keep moving it and turning it, and you eventually come up with a really nice shape, and that's what I'm all about, is shapes.
Okay, now I know we're probably going over time. It's what I do naturally and instinctually. You mentioned that there's 2 different sort of shapes. We're going to meet Kat Lavelle later, or different styles and ways to forge, and her style is very different than yours.
Her style's different because of how she does it and the material she works in.
What is it that you do that makes your style distinctive?
We both forge, but I'm working more right around and taking the shape and making it into something, where she starts off with a shape and then she enhances it by forging.
All right.
And like I told you earlier that when we were talking about bronze, and that's mostly what she works with, I had no idea how much fun bronze could be, and it's like my new love as far as it's concerned. It just excites me when I can play with it.
Okay, well, we're going to have a close look at that new love after a very short break. Still to come today, the little things that make Canadians unique, and hunger and disease no longer the biggest risks to children in low-income countries.
Hi, my name's Ann Judson, and I'm a volunteer with BC Summer Games. Did you know that over 19 sports are going to be represented at this summer's Games? These sports include things like equestrian, golf, lacrosse, soccer, wrestling, and rugby, just to name a few. They're going to be held at different venues around the city, so check bcgames.org to find out the schedule of events.
And that is the new love that David refers to. And is it safe to say, Kat, that that is the form of metal that you like working best in?
In bronze?
In bronze.
Yes, definitely.
And what is it? Why?
I have an affinity for bronze. The obvious one is that it's easier to work than steel because it's a softer metal. The copper was the metal of the goddess of Aphrodite or Venus, and I think that I like that romantic notion of being a woman working with that metal.
Absolutely. Now this piece you're maybe putting into the show that's coming up, and maybe not.
That depends if it works out. Yeah.
Now what does it work out mean? What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for a pleasing form, that that it will become much more dimensional. Right now it's quite flat, two-dimensional.
Right.
And I'm hoping, of course, not to have any happy accidents, like the metal might break or crack.
Right.
So it's always we never know what's going to happen, which is part of the charm of working with it.
Yeah, and you work in a lot of other mediums as well. Is that true?
I work in paint, oil paint, and textiles and rubber.
And what is it that you like about the metal work? Or brass work, I should say.
I think it's, well, I do work in steel as well,
okay.
but partly it's the unpredictability, it's the danger. I guess you have to be really present, and I find that quite exciting, the mindfulness. And the difference between choreography and spontaneity, because both come into play.
Working with the team that you're working with.
Working with the team, and I really like collaborative work, and I have been very fortunate to find Dave and to work with him. And the other interesting thing is that some of the tools that I own, which were from my late partner Douglas Senft, and some of Dave's tools originally belonged to the same blacksmith shop. So there
way back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there feels like an element of predestination in working together.
It seems like such a manly choreography that takes place, and yet here Dave is working with two women.
Well, you know what? I have some things to say about that. Women are, we're good multitaskers. We're good at paying attention. Certainly it's been gender-based, and there's some obvious reasons, because men are stronger. And, and that makes a difference. That's one of the benefits to working with Dave for me. But we are all collaborative people, and this doesn't have to be a gender-based occupation.
Excellent. Thank you. We're going to talk more about the show that's coming up. It's called Old Growth, opens on June the 25th. We're throwing things over to our summer series. It's called Big Summer. As you can see, and as David wanted us to point out, that forging art from metal is not a solo project. It requires help and assistance. Here he's working with Lavelle and his certified welder and apprentice, Terrian. We're here at Red Cod Forge in Nanoose, anticipating a show called Old Growth. It will feature a lot of those larger pieces at the Old Schoolhouse, June 25th till July 13th. We'll show you some of those pieces in just a little bit. But first, for the last couple of weeks, we've been sharing with you little bits of Canadian-isms. We've been calling them Canadian expressions, and that's all leading up to Canada Day. Takes place on July the 1st, of course, and Shaw TV has been working hard behind the scenes producing a national special called Our Canada, Our Home, and you can catch that on Shaw TV stations across the country from 6 a.m. until midnight on Canada Day. Here now is another Canadian expression. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We've been teasing you a little bit about a show that's coming up, opening reception at the Old Schoolhouse in Qualicum Beach on June the 25th. It's called Old Growth, featuring 3 artists. We've met Dave, we've met Kat. Who's missing today?
Kelly Goff, who is an artist from Comox, and she also works in metal, works quite differently from myself and Dave.
Okay. Now, Old Growth, I thought, oh, they're going to be depicting trees and they're going to be showcasing lots of forest scenes, and you sort of chuckled and said that's not what we meant. What does Old Growth refer to?
Well, there are some pieces that take their inspiration literally from the forest, but the 3 of us were a bit tongue-in-cheek with this when we're talking about our age and old growth. But for me, the metaphorical reference is to the stages that happen, and just as one stage gives way to another in a forest, each of us have stages in our lives.
All 3 of the artists contributing to Old Growth will be at the Old Schoolhouse in Qualicum Beach for the opening reception June the 25th, 7 o'clock. We're going to throw things over now to Derek Johnstone. It used to be that hunger and disease were the biggest risks for children in low-income countries, but in some Asian countries now, drowning is becoming a larger epidemic. Here is Derek Johnstone. That brings us to the end of this edition of Go Island. A ton of fun. So cool. It's hot hanging out here at Red Cod Forge in Nanoose Bay. They've got their big show opening on June the 25th. Another mention before we sign off officially, National Aboriginal Day takes place this year on June the 21st. That's this coming Saturday. There are activities free for the entire family taking place at Bowen Park in Nanaimo. They run from 10 until 2, and Shaw TV is presenting a National Aboriginal special on the 21st as well. Thanks for watching Go Island. We'll see you next time.
Lakeside Dental Clinic Go Island is brought to you by Lakeside Dental Clinic, a division of the Vancouver Island Implant Centre, delivering dental services, including dental implants and sedation dentistry, all under one roof. Clothing supplied by Catwalk Fashions. Kait's Hair and Aesthetics provided by Maffeo Salon.